A very good afternoon. We are going to start your session now for the B3 subject, and we will discuss about the magnetic circuit and electromagnetics in the last session. Right. So this chapter we are going to continue here, and in the morning we discuss certain parameters of the electromagnetics. The magnetic field in which the energy is stored in the magnetic field, as well as we discuss about the rise and decay of the current in inductor case, right? And with the mathematical expression, we discuss that parameter. So after that parameter, we had discussed one example. Are you understanding this example? Because this example we discussed at the end. So are you remember this example or not? Can you tell me? And did you understand this example? If you have any query in this example, you can tell me also. So can we go ahead if you understand this example? See, it is the coil. You can say that it is wound over the circular coil, or you can say that the magnetic material. So now I think we can go ahead. See, our next example question given here, and with the mathematical expression that how we can identify the parameter which was asked in this example question. So in this one, we have to determine the MMF which is required to generate the total flux of 100 micro Weber in the air gap of 0.2 centimeter long, and the cross sectional area of the air gap that is given here is 25 centimeters square. So first thing that we have to identify which parameter is given to you. Over here, the total flux of phi is given to you, that is of 100 micro Weber. So 100 into 10 raised to minus 6, that the Weber of the total flux it is generated. In the air gap length is also given here, that is 0.2 centimeter, and that we are going to convert into the again meter over here. So it is 0.2 into 10 raised to minus 2 meter. And the cross sectional area of the air gap given here, it is 25 centimeters square. So if you converted that into the meter, that means you can say that it is 1 centimeter is equal to 10 raised to minus 2 meter. So you have centimeter square here, so you can say that it is around 10 raised to minus 2 multiplied by 10 raised to minus 2. So that you can also do. So that is the length is given here, the cross sectional area is given here in terms of 25 into 10 raised to minus 4 meter square. So these three parameters of flux, length, and the air gap, which is given in the example question. Are you getting? Now we want to identify the MMF, and MMF we identify right by the use of the length, as well as you can say that the field force or the magnetic field strength. So first of all, we identify here the flux density, because you have the flux and the cross sectional area. So first of all, we identify the flux density here, and this is the equation of the flux density equation we used in this example of phi, B is equal to phi by A. So we are going to put both the values here, phi divided by A. Phi is equal to 100 into 10 raised to minus 6 divided by 25 into 10 raised to minus 4. So after putting this value, we identify here that the flux density. Now you can see that the flux density, whatever we identify, that we have to write with the correct you can say that the unit here, so it is Weber per meter square, and that we identify here of 4 into 10 raised to minus 2 Weber per meter square. Now the magnetizing force H is equal to B divided by mu 0. The actual equation of, or the relation between the flux density and field intensity, that is equal to B into mu 0 mu r into H. This mu r is equal to 1 because we have considered this thing in the air, and for the air this mu r component become 1. So that we have to assume right now the relative permeability of the air, that is we are assuming right now as a 1, and the rest of the thing you can see here after consider this thing for the air gap. B is equal to mu 0 into H. So we identify the H parameter here, and that's why we are going to divide over here with the B, that is B divided by mu 0 component. So H, magnetizing force H, is equal to B divided by mu 0, right? And that is equal to 4 into 10 raised to minus 2 divided by 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7. That is, you can say that the permeability, or you can say that the absolute permeability. So that the value we have to consider over here as a constant parameter of 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7. So that's why we can say that we will identify the field, or we can say that the magnetizing force H is equal to 3.18 into 10 raised to 4 ampere turn per meter. That is the unit of H, right? That is the unit of H. Now you can see here that the MMF equation we write here based on the magnetizing force H is equal to MMF divided by, you can say that L, length. So N into I, that is the MMF, and right here we used MMF to identify in this example question. So MMF is equal to the magnetizing force H into L. So you can see that we just multiply this H component with the length, and we will get here which one is 0. Mu L, mu R, that is the mu. I don't getting, see, I think this is you are talking about. Yeah, that is the constant parameter, always we assume. That is the constant parameter you have to assume for the mu 0 component. The absolute permeability of the free space, we can say that. That is the constant component that will be always there if you are considering the iron core material, or if you are considering the air gap. In the air gap, the relative permeability is equal to 1, and if you are using any magnetic material, in that case the mu are having some value. That will be useful, you can say that the permeability to draw the magnetizing or magnetic line or magnetic lines of force. That's why. Yeah, it will always 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7 for the mu 0 component. So after putting this H into L, we are getting the values of 63.7, that is ampere ton. Are you getting all of you up to here? So now if we go ahead with your next example, see in this example, a cast steel electromagnet has an air gap length of 3 mm and iron path of length of 40 mm. So you can see that there are the electromagnet cast steel iron material we are using here, right? The iron core path length is given, that is around 40 centimeter, and the air gap length which is provided, it is in between here, that is of 3 mm. So we have to identify the number of ampere turn necessary. Is the screen is visible to you? Because of the internet issue, I lost the connection here. But is this visible to you now? Okay, so right now, in this example, the first statement said here that if we use the cast steel material as electromagnetic material, the material air gap length is given over here of 3 mm, and the iron path of 40 centimeter length is given here. So we have to identify the number of ampere turn which necessary to produce the flux density, right? Of, we can say that 0.7 into Weber per meter square. Now we have to neglect the leakage and the fringing, and we have to assume here that ampere turns which is required for the air gap to be 70% of the total ampere turn. So now first of all identify whatever the parameters you have given to you with the common unit, because you can see here the length of the air gap given 3 mm, length of the that iron path given here of 40 centimeter. So the unit is not, you can say that you will have in terms of meter. So first of all you have to convert that into the meter part, right? And then after we can start with the calculation. Now first of all you have to identify the number of turns necessary to produce the flux density. So you have to identify the ampere turn, right? And the air gap length is given here, that is of 3 mm. So you have to convert into the meter first of all. So it is 3 into 10 to minus 3 meter, right? That we have converted here. Now after getting the value of air gap length, we want to identify the flux density in the air gap. Now again you can say that the flux density which is given here, that is of 0.7 Weber per meter square, so that we are going to keep as it is now. Then based on this two parameter, you can see here again the magnetizing force we will identify here for the that air gap length or air gap. So Hg is equal to Bg divided by mu 0 into mu r. If you go for the air gap, and if you are not writing the mu r, then it is also okay. Right now we identify this thing for the air gap. So ultimately your mu r value is equal to 1. So if you are writing the mu r value or not, it is doesn't matter here. But make the practice that you will write the full parameters of Hg is equal to Bg divided by mu 0 into mu r. Now you have the flux density parameter, that is the 0.7 Weber per meter square, divided by mu 0 is equal to 4.2 10 to minus 7, and mu r is equal to 1, because we are talking about, or we are discussing here for the air gap, and for the air gap mu r is equal to always 1. So now after calculating this parameter here, you will get the magnetizing force of Hg component, right? So that will be ampere turn per meter. Now after this, we require to identify here the ampere turn required for the air gap. Atg is equal to the magnetizing force of Hg multiplied by the length, because the length is also provided to you, right? The length of the air gap. So right now the equation whatever we used over here for to identify the ampere turn which is required for the air gap, Atg, that is equal to Hg multiplied by Lg. So Hg is equal to magnetizing force of 5.57 into 10 to 5 that we already calculated. That we will multiply with the length of the air gap, that is of 3 mm, and that we have converted into the meter, that is of 3 into 10 to minus 3 meter. So after calculating this parameter, we come to know that the ampere turn which is required for the air gap, that is equal to 1671 ampere turn, right? 1671 ampere turn, That is the mmf you will require for the air gap. Now, the last sentence, if you read carefully, it is also mentioned here that the ampere turn which is required for the air gap is 70% of the total ampere turn. And you want to require the calculation for the ampere turn, total ampere turn, that is the question. So what we are going to use over here, that statement given that ATG is equal to 70% of the total ampere turn of AT. So that we can put here, and we will identify that the total ampere turn, or the we can say that the number of ampere turn which is necessary here to identify from the air gap, or sorry, the ampere turn for the air gap, and the ratio or the percentage given here of 70%. So after putting this value, we come to know that what is the total mmf which is generated here. So that will be equal to 2387 ampere turn, right? Are you getting up to this point? Is there any query you have? You can write in the chat box section also. Are you getting or not up to this point? Yes, ampere turn is the mmf. Yeah, sorry, ampere turn, if you're talking about, then you can say that it is n into I, and that you can say that that will be calculated from the mmf equation also, because if you see in the last sentence, we already discussed this thing, right? mmf is equal to h into L. So that the same thing we have calculated over here also. Are you getting now? Now, the next example with the diagram given here, you can see that in the diagram also, there will be a iron ring having a cross-sectional area of 400 mm square given, and the mean diameter of 25 centimeter. What is the mean diagram, or what is the mean diameter here according to the statement and the diagram given? Can you tell me? The flux path, or you can say that the flux which is generated by this coil, they are concentrated near at the center. So that the mean value, there will be actually around all over the core, but we will identify the mean value of that component. What do you mean by mean? What do you mean by mean? Can we say it is average? According to this diagram, the mean diameter which is at the center of this two line, outer bore and the inner core. So right now the mean diameter is given over here is 25 centimeter. Now it is found with the 500 number of turns. So right here you can see that the number of turns will be having of 500 turns. Now if the value of the relative permeability, that is we call mu r, that is the relative permeability, that is of 250 given, you have to find out that the total flux which is set up in the ring, the coil having the resistance of 474 ohm, and the supply voltage it is given here is 240 volt. So now what you have to identify, the total flux which is set up in the ring. So total phi you have to identify here. So how we start the calculation? First of all, we have the voltage and the resistance value in the coil. So we'll identify first of all that how much the amount of the current flowing. So according to the Ohm's law, we identify the current which is flowing through the coil is equal to or V by R, or I is equal to V by R component. So voltage you have of 240 volt divided by 474 resistance you have, and based on that you will identify that the value of the current flowing through the coil is equal to 0.406 ampere, 0.5406 ampere. So this much amount of the current total flowing from the coil. Now you have the mean diameter. So the mean length, if we identify for this magnetic circuit, that will be equal to the pi multiplication of the mean diameter of the coil or the core. So right here you can say that the mean length of the magnetic circuit, that we identify in terms of pi into the mean diameter, that is of 25 centimeter given, but that will be converted into the meter. So that's why it is written 25 into 10 raised to minus 2. Now you can see that the value of the total or mean length, that is equal to 0.7854 meter. Till now the length is directly given to you, but in this case the mean diameter is given here because you have the ring over here. Now you have the current component, you have the length, and you have also the number of turns. So from this we can identify the magnetizing force by use of the equation that the H is equal to Ni by L. N is equal to number of turns, that is 500. The current flowing is 0.506 ampere, and the mean length, that is you have of 0.7854 meter. So after putting all the values in this equation, we identify the magnetic force H is equal to 322.30 ampere turn per meter. So this is what we have the right now the magnetizing force equation here of 322.13 ampere turn per meter. Are you getting? So this is the magnetizing force we use over here, the equation. Now the flux density equation again we used from the previous discussion, that is of mu 0 mu r into h. Mu 0 is equal to 4 pi into 10 raised to minus 7, that is constant parameter. Mu r is equal to 250, that is also given in the example question, and h we already identified, that is of 322.13. So after calculating this parameter, we identify that 0.1012 ampere, sorry, Weber per meter square. That is the flux density we identify. And now if we have the cross-sectional area of 400 mm square, and we can say that you will have the flux density of 0.1012 Weber per meter square. So from this calculation, we identify that what will be the total flux generated by the ring, or total flux which is generated into the ring. So it is simple, we have to do the flux density multiplied by the cross-sectional area. And after this multiplication, you can see that the 400 mm square is converted into the 400 meter square. So it is multiplied with the 10 raised to minus 3, and you have mm square. So that's why you can say that it is, again you have to do the 10 raised to minus 6. So it is, you can say that, sorry, 10 raised to minus 3. So at the end you will get the value of 400 into 10 raised to minus 6. Now after calculating the parameter, you can see that the values at the end we obtain here for the total flux which is generated into the ring, that is equal to 40.48 into 10 raised to minus 6 Weber. So this is, you can say that 40.48 micro Weber also. This much amount of the total flux which is generated by the coil, or which is generated into the coil, ring. Are you getting? Yes or no? Are you understanding this example? Tell me quickly. See, we identify or we want to identify here that the mean diameter which is given here of 25 centimeter, but we want to identify the mean length, right? So mean length, that you can say that it will be uh, mean length L is equal to pi into d. That is, you can say that the conversion ratio for the ring you have, and if you have the mean diameter, then you can easily identify the mean length of this ring. The pi is, you can say that the radial periphery. This is what we have, the radial periphery, and pi into d. The d is the mean diameter. So if you understand this thing, we can go ahead now. Now, this is one another example we have. Now, in this example, we have to identify certain parameters here. So first of all, understand the question very carefully, that you have a laminated soft iron ring has a mean circumference of 600 mm, right? The cross-sectional area which is given 500 mm square, and the radial air gap of 1 mm cut through it. So it is wound with the coil of 1000 tons. Estimate the current in the coil to produce a flux of 0.5 we can say that milliweber in the air gap. You have to assume the relative permeability of the soft iron, it is equal to 1000. The leakage factor, it is equal to 1.2. Fringing is negligible, and the space factor is equal to 0.9. Just a second. Okay, sorry for the interruption. I think you have read the all the sentence very carefully here. In this example question, we have to identify the current in the coil, which is to produce a flux of 0.5 milliweber in the air gap. And you have to assume this much amount of the parameters. Now, you can assume here there is a coil in which you have the soft iron ring, and the circumference is already given here, that is of 600 mm, so that you don't have to worry about part. Now, that is of the soft iron part given here, L. The cross sectional area is given of 500 mm square. The radial air gap is given here of 1 mm, which is cut through it. And now, if you see this, we have to identify first of all the ampere turn for the air gap as well as for the iron ring. And at the end, we will identify that how much the current it will be produced in the coil. So first of all, we will identify here that this the parameter which is given to us. So first parameter, that is the flux, which is given here of 0.5 milliweber in the air gap. So 0.5 into 10 to minus 4 Weber, sorry, 5 into 10 to minus 4 Weber, it is the flux given here, which is produced in the air gap. and we have to identify at which current this flux is going to be produced. The second thing given here, that the air gap length. So the air gap length is given here of 1 mm. So it is 1 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter. And the cross sectional area that is useful for the air gap is equal to 500 into 10 raised to minus 6 meter square. So because the parameter given over here into the mm square, we have to convert it into the meter square. Now we use the equation here of, you can say that the mmf or the flux is equal to mmf divided by reluctance. That equation we already discussed previously. Phi g is equal to mmf for the air gap divided by reluctance of sg. So we want to identify the mmf for the air gap, so we will multiply these two parameter, right? Phi g, that is already given to us, and sg, that is the reluctance. So reluctance of the air gap that we identify here, the normal equation if you identify for the S, that is equal to L divided by mu 0 mu r into A. But right now we are talking about the air gap, so it is going to be right here mu r is equal to 1. So that's why it is only written here that Lg divided by mu 0 into Ag, right? So these two parameters given here. Now after putting the phi into, you can say the phi g is equal to 4.10 raised to minus 4 into L, that is the length of the air gap, 1 into 10 raised to minus 3 divided by mu 0 is equal to 4.10 raised to minus 7, mu r is equal to 1, and cross sectional area, that is we are going to having of 500 into 10 raised to minus 6. So after this you can say that you will get the value of the 795.7 ampere ton, right? Now if you go for the ampere ton or the mmf for the air, so sorry, you can say the soft iron material, should we use the same equation here? Because when you get the total ampere ton or mmf, then and then you can identify the current. So the question here is, should we use the same equation to identify the mmf for the soft iron? You reply the answer in the chat box section. Yes or no? Should we use the same equation or not? Can you tell me? The answer is that you have to also multiply over here with the relative permeability mu r, because that is also given here, that the relative permeability of the soft iron. So right now you can say that for the iron core material we have the circumference of 600 mm. So if I convert this 600 mm into the meter, what should I write? Are you getting what I'm talking to you? If I'm convert this 600 mm into the meter, what should I write? Quickly give me the answer. What should I write for 600 mm if I'm converting into the meter? See, I asked that you have the value of the mean circumference of the soft iron material. Just a second. So in this case, you have 600 mm. So if I'm converting into the meter, we can write 600 into 10 raised to minus 3. Yes or no? If I'm converting 600 mm into the meter, what can I write? 600 into 10 raised to minus 6. So we can write that in the that terms in terms of meter. So now you can see here the ampere turn or the mmf for the iron part that is given here of phi I is equal to phi j into 1.2, and this is, you can say that, based on the leakage factor. This is the leakage factor equation. The leakage factor is equal to, or you can say that when you say that, yes, it is 600 into 10 to minus 3 meter. So leakage factor is equal to the flux or the mmf for the iron part, right? Sorry, flux for the iron part divided by the flux for the air gap. That is the leakage factor equation that we already discussed. The total flux, or you can say that the flux which is useful, total flux divided by useful flux, and that also the equation we have used, right? So now you can say that the value of uh, the flux parameter, that is phi I, we want to identify here. We have the leakage factor is equal to 1.2. So that will be multiplied with the flux of the air gap that we already identified in the our previous part. Yeah, that is also given here of 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 3. So it is 5 into 10 raised to minus 4. That will be multiplied with the 1.2, that is of the leakage factor. So that we are getting here of flux phi I. Now the length is given here, it is 600 into 10 raised to minus 3 meter. And for the area of the iron core material, the space factor is given here. So again, you can use the space factor equation, that is equal to the cross sectional area for the iron part divided by the cross sectional area for the air gap. So the air gap cross sectional area we have, right, that is of, we can say that 500 mm square. So that will be converted, and that will be, you can say that, multiplied with the space factor here. So now we can get the exact value of AI component, that means air gap, sorry, soft iron material. Are you getting? So now if you put this value in this equation, what is the change here? You can see length divided by, or length of the iron material divided by mu 0 into mu r into AI. Li, that is of 600 into 10 to minus 3. The flux we have of 5 to 10 to minus 4 into 1.2 divided by 4.2 10 to minus 7 multiplied by 1000. That is the relative permeability of the soft iron material multiplied by 0.9 of, you can say that, area. So from that you can identify the mmf for the iron part material. So you can identify the total mmf, that is the combination of both ATG, ATI. This is the total value, and now from the total value you can identify the I component. mmf is equal to, or AT is equal to N into I. So from this you can say that you will identify the current here. The number of turns, it is already given 1000. So what is the value of current? 1.432 ampere. Are you understand in this example? Do you have any question here? See the space factor, that is the ratio of the cross sectional area for the iron part material divided by the cross sectional area of the air gap material or air gap. That is the unit of the space factor. Shall we go ahead now? See, if you are not considering, if you considering the fringing here, if you are not neglecting the fringing here, then we should go to identify that what will be the leakage flux, because the total flux and the leakage flux both are different. So if we go for the fringing effect, then the total flux will be deteriorating, and that we have to identify. So that is also challenging part for us to identify that how much the fringing effect will be applied to that core. Okay, so now if we go ahead, this is our, you can say that the example based on the our hysteresis, and you can say that the loss component we discussed. So right now in this example, you can see that one example given here, that a transformer, it is the electrical appliances, in which the hysteresis loss was found to be 160 watt when the maximum flux density was 1.1 Weber per meter square, and the frequency at that time is 60 hertz. What will be the loss when the maximum flux density is reduced to 0.9 Weber per meter square and the frequency will be 50 hertz? So already we discussed this thing in the previous part, that the hysteresis loss component, that is equal to pH, we identify. So pH is equal to N F Bmax 1.6. This is the equation we used. So right now these two parameters are given here, frequency, and this is what we Bmax, this is our Steinman coefficient. So that we are not going to use over here. So we can directly write pH proportional to F Bmax 1.6. Now we have two cases here. In the first case, the loss component is already given to you, and in for the first case, the frequency as well as the flux density is offered here, that is of 1.1 Weber per meter square. So that we can put here frequency multiplication of the maximum flux density at that time. The second case, in which the 50 Hz frequency is given to us and the maximum flux density of 0.9 given here. So if you take the ratio of both the component P2 divided by P1, right? Because P1 value is given to you, that is of 160 watt. So if you take this value or this ratio of P2 divided by P1, you will get the ratio of the value of 0.604. And then after you can multiply with the loss of the first case, P1, that is already given 160 watt. So this is one step answer you can get directly if you know the equation of the hysteresis loss. Are you getting in this case? So what is the value of P2 now? It is 96.64 watt. So if your frequency is increasing, depend upon this case, what you can say that if you are increasing the frequency, or sorry, if you're decreasing the frequency, you can see in the first case, the maximum flux density was 1.1 Weber per meter square. At that time, the frequency was 60 hertz. But when you say that, when you decrease the frequency, it will also affect it to the flux density also. So it is now 0.9 Weber per meter square. So ultimately you will get the lower losses in the second case. Are you getting up to this point? Yes or no? Shall we go ahead now? Am I audible to you now? Okay. So are you understanding this question in this example? So we finish this chapter here. I hope you are all getting here up to this point. I will share this presentation with you. So no need to worry about this part. Now we are going to start with the new chapter here. So I'm just sharing the screen with you, just a minute. Okay, so we are going to start with the new unit because unit number 4, unit number 5 that we already discussed in our laboratory session about the safety protection in the battery, right? And today you will get the presentation of the same. All the 3 PPTs you will get, all the 3 chapter presentation you will get by tomorrow, today. And now we will start with the unit number 6 here, that is the fundamental of semiconductor material. So can you tell me that what is, yeah, mid-sem exam syllabus that will also share with you by evening. So what do you mean by semiconductor? Can anybody tell me if you remember or if you know? What do you mean by semiconductor material? See, the conductor materials or the fundamental of this semiconductor material we will discuss in very much detail. So first of all, the some basic parameters you require to understand here. So in this chapter, we'll discuss this much amount of the parameters. So I will give you first of all, yeah, the metal and the non-metal exactly. So we'll discuss here first of all here the introduction part, right? I will give you some introduction about the semiconductor materials and how it is going to be formed. Then after we'll discuss about the energy band diagram for the conductor, semiconductor and insulator. Then Bohr atom model for the atoms, crystal structure of the semiconductor material, and eccentric and eccentric semiconductor material. So this much amount of the parameter we'll discuss in this unit number 6. So first of all, the first parameter is what is the atom. You can see the diagram and you can see there are 3 parts of this atom. One is the positively charged particle, the particle with the no charge, and the negatively charged particles. So this is, you can say that the orbit in which the electrons start to be moved, the positive charged particles which is at the center of the atom, that is we call the protons, the neutrons, that means the particle with the no charge, and the last one, that is the electron, it is the negatively charged particle which is you can say that moving around this orbit. Now you can see this, how it is going to be moved. The structure of the atom given here. As I mentioned in the previous part, you have the proton and the neutrons into the center, and the electrons are to be moved. This is the envelope given here. So protons and neutrons are combined to form the nucleus. So this is, you can say that the center part, the combination of this proton and the neutron, that is the nucleus. And since the opposite charge attract to each other, the negatively charged electrons tend to remain in the orbit around the positively charged nucleus. So this is the envelope representing everything, that how the negatively charged electrons are remain in the orbit around the positively charged nucleus you have. So amount of the protons you have, you can see here, that is more compared to the neutron part, that is only one you have. And around that, you can say that it is continuously moving the electrons. Now, the development of the atomic structure. This is the historical form given here. It is started with the Dalton in 1803. Then after the scientists of Thomson, it is invention some positive and the negatively charged in the atom, 1904. Then Rutherford has introduced 1911 of the nucleus. Yeah, because the if you are talking about the previous topic, that means this one we are talking about, Gen Smart, or you are talking about the previous chapter. The previous chapter is completely over. Now we have just started with the new unit right now, right? And some of the parameters that we are going to discuss in detail over here for the fundamental of semiconductor material. So this image is actually indicating by duration how the invention is going on. So it is started from the 1803. Dalton Thomson has introduced some positive and negatively charged in 1904. Then after Rutherford has introduced nucleus that I discussed with you already, that is in 1911. And Bohr, Niels Bohr has introduced some energy level component in the atoms. In 1926, the Schrödinger has introduced some electron cloud module. So this is just the atomic, you can say that atomic theory, how it is developed year by year. But now we'll discuss this all the parameters of, you can say that, the Bohr's theory and all that theory in the very much detail in the our next session. Just a second. Hello. All these parameters of the semiconductor materials we are going to discuss in detail in the next session. So now it is time to fill up the form for the attendance purpose. So fill this form quickly so we can end the session here for all. Yeah, I will not forget about the presentation sharing with you. So quickly fill this form. I hope all of you have filled that form. Those who have filled that form, they can leave the session now. I hope all of you have filled that form so we can end the meeting here. Okay, so thank you so much. I'm going to end the meeting here for